Hey guys, tonight we drift back in time to the land of pyramids, papyrus, and endless sun, where linen rustles in dry winds, goats argue with donkeys, and every grain of sand seems personally invested in ruining your sandals. You're in ancient Egypt, and the moment your eyes open, you already regret it. You're not royalty. You're not even middle class. You're a regular villager, born into a family of brickmakers or barley planters. You sleep on a woven mat, in a mud brick house that smells faintly of garlic, goat, and possibly your brother. The room is pitch black, but outside the sky is softening, charcoal giving way to dusty rose. Roosters haven't even bothered to crow yet, but you're awake. Because if you miss the cool part of the day, which lasts about 12 minutes, you're done for. You stretch, careful not to knock over your cousin. There's not much privacy here. Your whole family shares one room. Your parents, your siblings, your uncle's niece from 2 villages away, and a goat named Mecca, who believes your face is a pillow. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening while tucked in bed, feel free to drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you're all drifting off from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first step of your day is making sure you don't step in something unpleasant. You shuffle across the packed earthen floor, past yesterday's papyrus scraps, and reach for your linen wrap, wrinkled, rewashed, and probably older than you. There's no closet. There's barely a door. The air smells faintly sweet, dates, dust, and the Nile. You take a cautious breath. It's already warm, and it's going to get worse. You slip on your sandals, fashioned from palm fiber and hope, and nudge open the wooden door, which creaks loud enough to wake the lizard, perched on the lintel. Outside, the village is already stirring. Chickens dart between feet. A neighbor slaps dough onto a hot stone. Somewhere, a donkey sings a solo from its soul. You glance up. The sky is pale now, almost blue. The sun hasn't even risen fully, but the air whispers, "I'm coming for you." And you believe it. You join the others walking to the fields, to the workshops, to anywhere shade might still exist. There's chatter, distant flute music, and someone yelling about a missing loaf of barley bread. Historians still argue whether most homes had flat or sloped roofs. But one thing is clear, no one had a snooze button. There's no breakfast waiting, no fresh robe, just your own 2 hands, a promise of heat stroke, and a full day of sun-drenched labor. And all this, that's before you even brush your teeth. Assuming you still have any, you step outside. The sun hasn't even cleared the horizon, but it's already announcing itself. With that slow, rising heat, that clings to your skin like wet linen. The village is awake. Barefoot kids chase each other past walls painted with crude gods. Women kneel beside clay ovens, coaxing fire from palm fronds. Somewhere, someone is yelling about missing sandals. The streets? They're made of packed dirt, cracked like an old pot. There's no pavement, no sidewalk. Just dust and goat tracks. You walk carefully, not because you're fragile, but because there are surprises everywhere. A sleeping dog, a chicken on a personal mission, an unspoken puddle of something you don't want to investigate. Your first stop? The river. Not the fancy Nile with golden barges and perfumed queens. Your section is muddy, swarming with frogs, and smells a bit like wet onions and fish regret. You dip your hands into the cool water, splash your face. Try not to think about what else might be floating nearby. People are already filling jars, carrying bundles of reeds. Someone's yelling for their cousin who wandered off with the donkey. Again, you head to the fields. Your job? Irrigation. Not glamorous, But without it, no crops. No crops, no bread. No bread, and well, let's not go there. You walk along a narrow canal, barely more than a ditch, checking the flow of water, adjusting little mud walls, with a wooden tool that looks suspiciously like a broken paddle. Historians still argue whether villagers did this alone, or worked in rotating teams. But either way, the work is slow, and the sun is climbing. You squint upward. No clouds. Just endless, blinding blue. The kind of sky that feels like it's judging you. The wind picks up. A small mercy. It carries the scent of tamarisk trees. And someone baking bread a few huts over. You pause. Wipe your brow. Watch a heron flap lazily by like it's got nowhere to be. And just for a moment, you forget how tired you are. How far the Nile stretches. How many hours are still ahead. Then someone calls your name. It's time to keep digging. Because in ancient Egypt, the sun waits for no one. You're barely out the door when your stomach reminds you loudly that it exists. It's breakfast time. Or, well, whatever counts as breakfast when you're a villager in ancient Egypt. No eggs. No toast. No iced latte with extra foam. Just a cold lump of yesterday's porridge. A mixture of barley, onions, and maybe a fig, if the gods were feeling generous. You scoop it from a clay bowl, sitting cross-legged in the dust beside your house. The sun is climbing, fast, and so is the temperature. Already your back is damp, your forehead sticky, and your porridge gritty with a suspicious crunch. You try not to think about what that crunch might be. Across the street, a neighbor is yelling. His donkey wandered into someone's papyrus field. Again, the argument gets heated in more ways than one. But eventually someone laughs. Someone else throws a fig. The crisis is over. Welcome to small-town diplomacy, Egyptian style. Once your breakfast is done, it's time to work. Because even if your stomach isn't full, your responsibilities certainly are. If you're a man, you might be off to the fields, digging irrigation canals, sowing barley, or hauling baskets of grain in the sun. If you're a woman, your list is longer. Grind the flour, bake the bread, patch the clothes, haul the water, soothe the baby, scrub the floor. Oh, and prepare the next meal. While making sure no one gets stung by a scorpion. All before noon. Your tools? Mostly stone, wood, and willpower. Iron's expensive. Bronze even more so. So unless you're rich, which, spoiler alert, you're not. Your shovel is a branch. Your knife is chipped flint. Your bucket leaks. Historians still argue whether daily laborers had any real time off. But let's just say, the concept of a weekend didn't exist. The Nile doesn't rest. Neither do you. And the sun? It's officially angry now. It beats down on your shoulders, turning your linen wrap into a warm, damp towel. There's no SPF. No aloe. Just a reed hat. If you remembered it. A passing priest walks by, chanting something under his breath. You nod respectfully. Religion is everywhere here. In your morning, your meals, your architecture, even your laundry. That amulet around your neck is not fashion. It's protection. From evil spirits, from disease, from yesterday's questionable porridge. And yet, despite the hardship, there's rhythm. A rhythm to the pounding of the grain. A rhythm to the creaking of the well. A rhythm to the chatter of neighbors. Laughing, gossiping, sharing news and water like breath. Someone brings out a lute. Someone else starts to hum. You pause. Wipe the sweat from your brow. And for a moment, you almost forget your blisters. But the sun reminds you, the work isn't done. And your lunch break? That's still hours away. So you keep going. Bent, barefoot, barley in your hair and dust on your lips. You work not for glory, not for praise, but for survival. Because in ancient Egypt, the heat doesn't wait, and neither does the harvest. By midday, the sun is no longer just shining. It's punishing. You try to stay in the shade, but there isn't much of it. A skinny palm tree, the curve of a crumbling wall, or the shadow cast by your own hunched frame. Your throat feels like it's lined with sandpaper. You'd give anything for a cold drink, but instead, you sip from a goatskin bag of lukewarm, slightly dusty water that tastes like yesterday. Still, it's precious, too precious to waste. So you savor every gritty drop, pretending it's the Nile's finest vintage. Lunch, if you're lucky, is a chunk of bread, dense, dry, rough enough to exfoliate your gums. You dip it into whatever stew is available. Beans, maybe? Or lentils. Or something you don't ask too many questions about. And then, back to work. Because there's no siesta here. The sun doesn't care that your back aches, your feet throb, or that your last clean wrap now smells like boiled onion. Someone nearby lets out a grunt. A farmer who's twisted his ankle. He ties it with a rag, picks up his hoe, and limps on. Healthcare? That's creative. Honey for wounds, beer for pain, crocodile dung as birth control, and a prayer for everything else. Historians still argue whether ancient Egyptian medicine was advanced or just enthusiastic. But one thing's for sure, you wouldn't want to break a bone here. The village priest is also the closest thing to a doctor. He's got spells for fevers, charms for bad dreams, and ointments made from goose fat and herbs with names you can't pronounce. And yet, somehow people survive. Babies are born. Wounds heal. Life carries on in spite of everything. You pause to stretch your back. A boy runs by, chasing a hoop with a stick. His laughter rises through the heat. Light, wild, unbothered. You smile, remembering what it felt like to be small enough. To play in the dirt without worrying about what needed to be planted there. A breeze picks up, brief, merciful. It stirs the linen on your shoulders, lifts the dust from the road, and carries the scent of date syrup from someone's cooking pot. For a second, just a second, you feel human again. You're reminded that even in this hard, hot place, there's rhythm, there's community, there's something like peace. A neighbor waves. You wave back. No words needed. Your hands are blistered. Your skin is sunburned. But your spirit? Somehow it's still standing. And that's something. But don't get too comfortable. The Nile waits for no one. And there's still plenty of light left in the sky. Afternoon drags on. Like a cart with a broken wheel. The sun, once blazing from above, now angles itself to glare directly into your eyes. Shadows stretch across the dusty paths. And the village hum begins to slow. You're still working, of course. Stacking bricks, patching walls, or threshing barley, depending on your lot in life. But the heat has changed. It's not hot anymore. It's personal. It clings to your skin, crawls into your clothes, and dares you to keep going. You wipe sweat from your forehead with the corner of your wrap. It only makes things worse. Now it's wet. A child cries nearby. Probably stepped on something sharp, like a pottery shard, or the harsh reality of ancient infrastructure. You pass a group of older men huddled under a fig tree, playing a board game that looks like checkers met spiritual enlightenment. It's called Senate. They say the gods might decide the winner. You watch for a moment, the soft sound of sticks clicking against wood, a snort of laughter, someone cheating quietly. It's the first real break in your day, and it's not even yours. You move on, toward the river, because evening chores are calling, and they're not optional. Washing clothes, fetching water, helping drive animals home from the fields. The Nile is quieter now. A few boats float by, low-slung fishing skiffs, reed canoes, or cargo vessels that creak like old bones. You bend to fill a clay jug. The water glistens. It smells faintly of silt and reeds and 100 generations before you. You stand carefully. Balance the jug on your head. No hands. You've done this before. Everyone has. This is survival by repetition. A rhythm passed down from mothers to daughters. fathers to sons, without ever needing to be said out loud. Historians still debate whether the average Egyptian truly revered the Nile, or just tolerated its moods. But to you, it's not a symbol. It's life, and it demands respect. On the walk home, your sandals scrape softly against the packed earth. Chickens cross your path. A woman waves from her doorway, offering a smile and a date wrapped in a leaf. You take it. It's warm, sweet, unexpected. Small kindnesses mean everything here. And then, you see your home. Not much to look at. A low mud brick wall. A reed mat for a door. But it's yours. You step inside. And for the first time all day, you let yourself sit. Not because there's nothing left to do, but because your bones have negotiated a truce with gravity. Outside, the light fades. The air cools. The day exhales. Inside, there's dinner to think about, stories to share, and a little peace before the world begins again. Dinner isn't ready. It's never really ready. It's just whatever ends up in the pot. When everyone agrees they're too hungry to wait any longer, you sit cross-legged by the hearth. A shallow clay bowl is passed around. Steam rises, slow, lazy curls that smell faintly of onions, lentils, and salt. If you're lucky, there's a hint of coriander. If you're really lucky, someone caught a fish today. You take a bite. It's warm, filling. Maybe a little gritty. Was that sand? Probably. There's always sand. You tear a chunk of flatbread. It's tough and smoky. Cooked earlier on a stone that still holds the imprint of a chicken's foot. You don't ask questions. You just eat. The room is dim, lit only by a flickering oil lamp. Shadows dance on the wall. Your cousin's nose becomes a mountain. Your father's elbow a crooked bird. Someone chuckles. Someone sings a line from a familiar tune. And for a moment, life doesn't feel so hard. Children curl up in corners. A baby snores softly in a woven basket. The goat, Mecca, finally settles down, just in time to sneeze directly into someone's dinner. You've survived the worst of the day. But there's still one last task. Prayers. You kneel, face toward the small household shrine. A carved wooden statue of a falcon. A faded painting of the goddess Hathor. A bowl of crushed herbs. You whisper your thanks. You ask for protection. You hope tomorrow brings fewer blisters, more dates, and maybe, just maybe, no scorpions. Historians still argue how much of daily religious life was personal versus ritualistic. But to you, faith is survival. Hope is a tool. And even the gods might understand how tired you are. You lie down on your mat. It smells like sun and straw. The pillow is a curved wooden headrest that feels nothing like a pillow. But it's yours. Outside, the wind rustles the palms. The Nile whispers its lullaby. You close your eyes, and just before sleep pulls you under, you hear someone laugh. It's small, faint, but real. And you smile. Because in this world of heat, hunger, and hard work, someone still laughed. Morning comes too soon. Again, the sky outside is still bruised with early blue, but the village is already humming. You rise slowly, muscles tight from yesterday's labor, back stiff from that luxurious wooden pillow. You wince, stretch, shuffle toward the door. Your linen wrap is still damp from yesterday's sweat. You wear it anyway, out in the street. The world is dust and light. Children chase each other barefoot. A potter spins clay in the corner. An old woman mutters to herself, sorting herbs by color, scent, and something only she understands. You head toward the fields. Again, same sun, same tools, same endless rows of barley and flax. But something's different. Today, your neighbor brings a story. It's about a crocodile in the canal, fat as a boat and twice as angry. She swears she saw it blink at her husband. He hasn't stopped shaking since. You laugh. They laugh. The field echoes with dusty joy. It's these stories that keep people going. Little bursts of absurdity in a life built on routine. You plant. You pull weeds. You swat flies. You sweat through every inch of cloth you own. And some you don't. By midday, your body feels like it's melting. Your hands are raw. Your feet hum with pain. You take a break under the shade of a fig tree. A boy offers you a slice of dried fish. You trade him a smile and a small, round onion. This is currency. This is kindness. Historians still debate how structured Egypt's local economies were. But out here, barter is the law. And favors, big or small, are what keep things running. The sun inches across the sky. Your shadow shrinks. And time drips on like syrup made of sweat and sand. By late afternoon, the canal glitters gold. Boats drift lazily across the water. Children splash on the banks. One of them screams with delight. Probably saw the crocodile. Or maybe just a frog. Either way, it's a good distraction. Because in a few hours, it all begins again. You look at your hands. Scraped, cracked, brown with soil. This is what survival looks like. Not dramatic. Not glorious. Just steady. Just present. You rise, stretch once more, and head home. The Nile at your back. The wind at your heels. And maybe, just maybe, enough energy left for a smile. The sky is melting into amber now. Soft purples and peach hues spilling across the horizon. You walk slowly, following a path worn by 1,000 feet before yours. The dust clings to your calves. Your shadow grows long again, stretching like a lazy cat toward the village gate. Home smells like firewood, onions, and old sweat. You love it anyway. Inside, the room is dim. A small oil lamp flickers in the corner, casting shadows that dance like ghosts across the wall. Dinner is waiting, if you can call it that. A pot of lentils, a scrap of bread, maybe a pickled radish if someone remembered to steal one from the storage jar at the temple. You sit with your family, cross-legged, close. Nobody talks much, just the scrape of bowls, the occasional grunt, a sigh, and that one cousin who always chews too loud. After the meal, someone tells a story. It's about a scribe who got cursed for misspelling a god's name. His ink turned to beetles. Everyone laughs, even if they've heard it a dozen times. Laughter is precious here. Like figs out of season. Like cool water in summer. You lie back on the floor. Your mat's slightly less lumpy than yesterday. The goat is already snoring. The baby's hiccuping. The walls breathe with the heat of many bodies. Your eyelids grow heavy. But before you sleep, you think. Not about tomorrow's chores. Not about sandstorms or taxes or the pharaoh's next decree. You think about the stars. Because out here, in the silence between reed huts, the sky is clear, so clear it feels like you could fall upward. Historians still argue whether ancient Egyptians believed the stars were souls of the dead. But tonight, you believe it. You trace Orion with your finger. Feel the night wrap around your ankles like a soft shroud. You think of the river, always flowing, never stopping, just like life here. You survived the day, and that's no small thing. So sleep now. Dream of cool breezes, gentle waves, and a world where sandals never break. Because tomorrow will come, with heat and dust and laughter again. And you'll rise, like the Nile, like the sun, like hope. And now, as the sun sets over the Nile and the sky fades to velvet blue, you let your breath slow, your thoughts soften, and the last whispers of the day slip quietly into the night. The village has gone still. The wind outside barely stirs the reeds. Your limbs are heavy now, your eyes warm and full of stars. Maybe the floor beneath you isn't soft. Maybe the air still holds a bit of dust. But here, wrapped in a blanket of quiet, you feel something ancient settle around you, a kind of peace that hums just beneath the surface of it all. You've walked in sandals made of straw, toiled under a sun that never shows mercy, shared bread with strangers and laughter with family, and somehow, through all of it, You've arrived at this moment. Still, safe, soft around the edges. Let the stories you've heard tonight cradle you. Let the past blur gently into dreams. No more rushing, no more dust. Only this, the soft hush of nightfall in ancient Egypt. The steady rhythm of your breathing, the stars overhead, and the quiet knowing that you've made it through. One more story, one more night. Sleep well, traveler. The Nile will wait until morning.